Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Financial Advisors Want to Know. I'm Catherine Tindall, and on today's show, I have with me Nick Yeomans. He has 22 years in practice. He's partners with his dad, Randy Yeomans. Together, they've built a successful RIA managing over $350 million for approximately 400 families. Is that still an accurate figure for you, Nick?
We're a little closer to 380 million and about
There you go.
320 families now. But
That's a better ratio. That's a good ratio.
Yeah.
Nick's a CFP and a college instructor and a professional speaker. And we were having a great conversation pre-show that I almost wish we had just recorded part of that too to throw in here. But we were talking about having a high growth and a lifestyle practice and how you make those two things work and some of the common blocks we've been seeing with some advisors on that. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. Welcome.
Yeah, Catherine, thanks so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. I think it's going to be great for other advisors to kind of join in on our conversation.
Yeah. So it's something that has become a really popular trend in my industry because I think in accounting and in financial advising, it's a similar thing where it's the barrier to you going out and hanging your own shingle is not, once you have the technical acumen, it's not that hard to do that, especially in the current environment with what software and technology is. But we were talking a bit in the pre-show about how people can kind of get stuck in this trap of limiting what they can do because of a perception of once they've built up their lifestyle practice that going after more is going to be more stressful, or that they don't want that, or not having a plan around it. And I'd love to hear kind of what your experience was from doing something similar to that, and then some thoughts that you have initially around that conundrum that you see.
Sure. Well, I think like so many advisors who's been around the block for a little while, you have bought into this notion that you either have a high growth opportunistic practice, and you've got to build infrastructure and team and SOPs and all that kind of stuff, which can, absolutely stress a lot of people out, right? Especially if you just want to be a financial advisor or a financial planner, just meet with people. But then, on the flip side, you've got the lifestyle practice, which is I want to have a great practice. I want to build up to 100 clients, or, the proverbial 100 clients and $100 million of assets. And then I just kind of want to coast. I'll have, maybe about 5 or 6 clients of attrition every year. I'll add 5 or 6 clients, but, I'm going to enjoy life and that kind of thing. By the way, both are okay. Like if that's what you want, that's okay. If you want the practice that's also, high growth, that's okay. What I'm going to challenge is that you can have both. Okay. I believe firmly, and it's because I'm experiencing it. My partner, Randy, he celebrated 40 years in the industry, October of last year. So October 1983 is when he started. And, he also drank a lot of this Kool-Aid for a long time of like, you kind of have this or this, which one do you want? And, my belief is that both. So how do you do that? And I think number one, you have to identify that perhaps you can. One, you've got to have the buy-in that you can. And two, you have to define what a lifestyle business actually means to you. So for me, here's how I define that. I want to take maximum time off to be with my family. I've got 3 teenage daughters. I don't get that time back. I don't like to work during the different breaks I have throughout the year. We take wonderful vacations. I take significant time off in the winter. I take significant time off in the summer, and I am present. I don't, just like I preach to my clients, I preach also to my team, by the way. My team knows this. We don't miss piano recitals. We don't miss soccer matches. We don't miss, golf tournaments. We don't miss the stuff. Be present. But at the same time, when I'm on, I don't believe there's anybody out there who's going to outwork me and be so present with their clients than I will. Well, and I think, by the way, that is my own bias, and all advisors kind of have that mentality of no one's going to take care of my client like I'll take care of my client. Like we all have that. Okay.
Yeah.
That little bit of ego, right? But but I want to be my best. When I show up for a client, I want to be my best. And one of the wonderful ways that we've been able to accomplish both having lifestyle as well as incredible service with, for our clients has been this notion of surge meetings.
Hmm.
And I know my friend Matthew Jarvis and
Hmm.
Micah Schlansky, and they are huge proponents of this. But there is a common notion that all surge has to look alike.
Yeah.
And so here's what Randy and I did. We said, hey, it's got to be workable for you. Randy's in his 60s. He does want to enjoy more time doing things, having adventures and things like that. Whereas my focus is more being very present with my family. So instead of doing 6 or 8 weeks of just straight killing it appointments, what we've decided to do is take 8 months out of the year, and we have our review meetings 1 week a month during that 8 months. So,
Hmm.
I might see 30 clients in a week, but we're prepared and we're serving them at a really, really high level. So I know I'm kind of getting a little deeper into the weeds, but
Hmm.
my point is I really truly believe that an advisor today can have a great lifestyle practice, as well as really high growth.
Yeah, and I think that I love that you bring that up because I'm actually in the middle of the Delivering Massive Value book right now,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's excellent, and it's really excellent for anybody in professional services because I think a big part of it is we get, and he calls it head trash,
Yeah.
and it's so true. Like you get into these modes where you think, oh well, I can't do this, bigger version of what I'm trying to do because coming up with all of these like problems in your head of why you couldn't go bigger, um instead of realizing, well, like what do I actually want, like what do I truly want. Don't use the math of, like, this is something I've come up with, is like don't use the math of difficulty when you're going through that process. Like don't stop yourself from imagining what it could be by saying like, oh well, it's going to be too hard. It's like, well, what would you actually want? Like if you could have it all, like what would it actually be? And then try to actually reverse engineer from there. And I love the surge meetings, but it comes down to, like you were saying, like that intentionality of like, well, what does lifestyle practice mean to you? And for you, that's having a lot of time with your family, but also when you're working, like you are really working, and because you want to balance the growth. Have you like, besides some of the things like we were saying in the pre-show that really hold people back is comes around more with like team expansion, because for you to really be able to do that, you're going to need a lot more support from a team that you align with, that's you're able to pull in line. And I feel like a lot of the advisors who are solo, that's really the biggest block, is that, well, I don't want to manage people, I don't want to lead people.
Sure.
What do you have to say to that
Yeah.
objection? Yeah.
Yeah. One, I get it. Like that's one of my least favorite things ever to do. Like, I mean, I don't want to manage, I don't want to hire, I don't want to, heaven forbid, fire. Like, I don't like any of that, right? I love solving problems for clients. I like winning new clients, and I like educating the public. Those are my three things. Like, I like that stuff. I feel uniquely gifted to do those things. If you've read the book, Unique Abilities, like it's Dan Sullivan, the strategic coach. What are the things that you're really excellent at? Because that's what I want to spend time doing. Well, I've got to build a team around me that can support those things I'm not really excellent in, that do drain me, that do take away my energy. So if I was to look at building a team, I want what we call a unique ability team.
Hmm.
And what we find is that if your team members are actually operating in their own unique abilities, a lot of the stress and worry you have about managing people kind of goes away,
That's true.
because there's less friction that you're dealing with versus having people who are not operating in things that they're uniquely gifted in doing. So I think having really the understanding of where you fit in the paradigm of, track the book EOS, the entrepreneurs, operating system, traction. Are you the visionary, or are you going to be the implementer? Okay,
Hmm.
because you can't be both really. And so for us, we have a general manager, and our general manager, tons of life experience, owned and operated a lot of different types of companies, but he is that implementer. He can get stuff done. So I don't have 30 people reporting to me.
Yeah.
I have one person on the business side and one person on the compliance side. And so I think a lot of it has to do with the organization of your business, but don't not do something because you're scared of it.
Yes.
Get
Yeah.
coaching.
Yeah.
Get a coach.
Yep.
You know, we've got a saying, beware of the coach that doesn't have a coach. Go get a coach that has helped people do it. Like I've got coaches. We have multiple coaches for different purposes of our professional life, including personal life, by the way. Like I really strongly believe that coaching will help you go to the next level and have the kind of life that you want. But Catherine, you brought up something a little while ago. I've got to cite a book for our audience today that I think would be really great. Have you ever read Cameron Herold's book, Double Double?
No, I haven't.
All right, so he's a former, CFO of 1-800 Got Junk
Mm-hmm.
and College Pro Painters and different companies. Really, really smart guy. But
Yeah.
what he does is he talks about identifying the painted picture. If you had your perfect practice and your perfect life, and you were to write it down, what does that look like? Well,
Mm-hmm.
in order to get that, what needs to happen? Well, in order to get to there, what needs to happen? And you're building it backwards, which is what you said just a little while ago. But for anyone who's really interested in like having a canvas to paint and like a way to do this, that's a
Yeah.
great book to explore. And his whole thing is, I'll help you double your business in 3 years.
Yeah, that's great. I actually read his book, Vivid Vision, not too long
Yeah.
ago because I encountered him. I do a coaching program with Dan Martell, who wrote a book called Buy Back Your Time, which is excellent. And Cameron's in that group, and we connected over that. But yeah, I think just the piece of advice of the getting coaching is such a core mindset shift of realizing that like you saying can't or you saying like too hard or things like that, most of the time it's just an ignorance gap. Like it's
Yeah.
just something that you don't know how to solve the problem, or it's like a puzzle that's challenging rather than a true ceiling or a true wall. And like your piece of advice just on the, realizing who you are, realizing what those strengths are, and then finding the other people to fill in the gaps of that instead of you trying to fill in the gaps yourself, right? Like I think that's
Yeah.
where most people hit the burnout, and then when they hit the I can't, or this is a wall, I can't get through this, it's like, well, no, actually it's just you can't manage people, you need to hire a manager. Like,
Yeah.
you can't keep yourself organized, but you're a great speaker, like get somebody else to keep you organized. Like you don't
Sure.
need to be you won't be able to do it all. And I think a core thing that I've been seeing with a lot of these practices where they stay at that lifestyle where it's like really just like a solo practice is that those businesses are really fragile because they don't have the robustness of the weaknesses of the core advisor who's basically running it, and maybe they've got one other person, aren't being balanced out by other things. Like they are the true bottleneck in the business. And it's a fragile business because it's just you and your talents. um, so I would love to hear more about what you've seen, like how you've seen people kind of break through that, um, and the benefits of making your business a little more anti-fragile by pushing through that ceiling of the solo practice, or maybe you've got a couple people but you're not really trying to grow. Hey there, Catherine here. Thanks for listening to the conversation. Just wanted to explain a little more about what we do. So, I'm a CPA here with Dominion. We're a tax firm that works specifically for financial advisors as they're growing and scaling their practices to help them avoid tax waste, make the right calls, and grow practices that they love. So, if you're interested in saving more, you can DM me on LinkedIn with the word guide, and I'll send you over our guide for financial advisors to scale tax efficiently. All my top tips to unlock six-figure savings. Thanks, and keep enjoying the show.
Yeah. Well, I think, Catherine, I like your framing of this because really this is, Jarvis would call it, as you said, head trash,
Mm-hmm.
but it's limited beliefs. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people have limited beliefs about what is possible. And especially if you've drank the Kool-Aid for so long of high growth versus a lifestyle, I've got to choose.
Hmm.
I'm going to tell you, you don't have to choose. You can have both. You've got to get rid of that mindset. You have to do that. So if it involves accountability partners, if it involves coaching, if it is finding your circle, and maybe for you to go to the next level, you've got to find a different circle.
Yeah.
If you're traveling in the same, with the same group for the last 10, 15 years and you're not growing and they're not growing, what are you really gleaning from that other than maybe some feel good conversations? And I'm not trying to be little or be ugly, but the reality is if you're getting serious about having what you really, really want, I want to grow and I want to enjoy life, well, then build it. But
Yeah.
surround yourself with that team. So here's what I would do. If I found a person that is really doing the kind of thing I want to do, and I can point to different people that I've surrounded myself over years. We can go back to the 90s and early 2000s. Tom Gow,
Hmm.
amazing, amazing. He passed away a couple of years, I guess 2 years ago, I think, a year and a
Hmm.
half ago. Amazing thought leader. I think he was in the book, maybe Tipping Point. Like he's just an amazing mindset, right? But then you look at, Ken Unger and the Academy for Preferred Financial Advisors. You look at other folks like the Perfect RIA.
Hmm.
You look at these different coaching programs out there that are all designed to get you to think different, to give you systems and processes to live a really excellent life and to have a great running business. Go seek out those people that are doing it because they'll help you. Okay. And I think a lot of the reason that we don't is because of ego or maybe
Hmm.
even some pride that we
Yeah.
carry, that I should be good enough to figure this out myself. I
Hmm.
should be able to do this. I've lived in the should world in different from a health perspective in my health life. I should be able to go to the gym on my own, 4 or 5 days a week without anyone telling me I should do that or making me do it or whatever. Well, what I found for me is I need a push. I need a purpose.
Yeah.
I've got to have a gym partner. I've got to have accountability. I've got to have a trainer. I got to make that happen. I've got to
Yep.
work with a dietitian. I got to work with my chiropractor. Why? Because I want good health. And I
Hmm.
know left to my own, I'm not going to do it because I'm going to feel wasteful. I'm going to waste money. I'm going to come up with all these excuses.
Yeah.
When the reality is, the excuse is that you're not willing to get over, forgive me, I'm going to speak for myself. I had to get over myself.
Yeah.
I think other people
Absolutely.
have to get over themselves so that you can really take ground and push forward. Because I'm telling you, it's possible. And anyone who says otherwise, I mean, you can believe what you want to believe, but I think there are too many people trying to put limits on you and what you're able to do.
And that's yourself, right? I think for most people it starts with yourself, maybe it starts with your circle. And I love what you're saying because that's something that has been a big revelation to me is that if you really want excellence, like the beginning of excellence is the humility of
Mm.
saying like I'm not going to know the answer or maybe I do know the answer, but I don't have the strength to get to what needs to happen in order for this to happen and to have the humility of saying, "Oh, I want the result and so I'm just going to do what it takes to get the result." And if that means I have to, hire the coach or hire the fitness instructor or, text my sister-in-law that if I don't make it, like I'm going to donate money to a political cause I don't like or whatever it is, right? It's like
I've
if you
done
just
that.
right? Like if you just want the result, like you just have to commit to the result. And I think a lot of people, this is just a separate personal belief in business is that at least for me, like I think that running and operating a professional services firm is like it is just such a unique opportunity for you to develop into an excellent person in a way that maybe not many other things in life can get you to have that challenge if you're owning and operating a company. And that if you're not embracing that opportunity for you to become an excellent version of yourself, I feel like you're kind of missing out on the whole ultimate point of like why we should be doing this in the first place. Like I think a lot of people get caught in the comfort trap and it's a false place to be. They get to the point where they're comfortable, but they're not actually have built a business. I'm a big fan of Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb. You haven't built something that's anti-fragile. Like you've built something that's fragile and you're comfortable, and you've made yourself fragile because you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't mean that you have to do something that's impossible, but doing the thing that's actually harder is going to be better. Like you will adapt to that. Like you've already adapted to where you are at now, which was a challenge, like learning how to onboard clients, learning how to do correct planning, like figuring all that stuff out. You'll continue to adapt to the difficulty level. It's just you won't see the fruit unless you keep pushing of really becoming excellent. And so I see people like getting caught in the lifestyle practice trap where it's like a comfort trap. And, I know that they're capable of more if they were just pushed.
And sometimes when we're comfortable, we need to be afflicted.
Yeah.
And, and this is a little bit of a wrestling match, okay? Because I like comfort. I like nice things. I like to enjoy life. I like to travel to great, wonderful places and have adventures. I love all those things. And there's a comfort in being able to do those things. But at the same time, that there are other areas of my life that I need that friction. I need that disruption. And about a year ago, I found myself too comfortably content. Okay. I needed to be shaken a bit. And I came across a program called 75 Hard. And are you familiar?
Yeah. So, I'm flirting with doing it.
Are you? Do it.
Sell it, Nick. Sell it.
Hold on. You'll never find the perfect time to do it. That's one of the arguments. Everyone's like, well, I'll do it, but it's got to start like Thursday a month from tomorrow. Like, no. Just do it. Well, it's going to take me through the holidays. Do it. The whole point is to have you go through something difficult for personal, like, people argue that it's a fitness thing or whatever. No, it's a mindset thing, because what it's getting you to do is think differently, to be uncomfortable every single day for 75 days. And it's amazing what you accomplish and what you overcome over those 75 days. And for those of you who don't know, you have to do all these tasks, including physical and mental, every single day for 75 days. And if you miss one day, you have to start back over at day one. So, I mean, that's a lot of accountability in and of itself, but it shook me to get me to start thinking different and change my patterns and change my ways. And again, that was a healthy thing for me to go through.
Yeah, no, that's great. Because I think a big one that a lot of people don't get is when you're at that place of comfort and being satiated, if you're not hungry, the meals don't taste good. If you're not tired, the sleep isn't going to be good. Like if you're not actually challenged, the rest and the rejuvenation is not really restful or rejuvenating. And so I think for a lot of people in their practices, they can get to a point where like the initial stretch is really hard, and then they get to that comfort zone, and then they look back on the stress of the initial startup phase and they're like, I just don't want to do anything like that again.
I don't want to go through that pain again.
Yeah.
Well, and I can definitely identify with that because, if we think about like putting ourselves through certain torture that got us benefit, like, I'm glad I did it, but I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
But would you do it again if it got you to that place or even further? And so I think, if we were to just look internally, I'm a Christian. And so for, part of my belief is that we have not because we've asked not. And sometimes we're not asking because we're not thinking about, or we don't want to think about the consequence that might come with doing that action or having the thing that we're asking for. Well, that's acting in fear. And I think we and your audience, I think we're better than that. I think that, if we can surround ourselves with the right team, with the right people, the right friend group, the right coaching, the right thing, we can do amazing things. And ultimately, this is all about our clients. And the better you're making yourself, the better you're going to be for your clients. The better I know spiritually, I know emotionally, I know mentally, and I know physically, the better I take care of myself, the better dad I'm going to be, the better husband I'm going to be, the better neighbor I'm going to be in my neighborhood. So you've got to spend time on you and really taking care of you. And the one thing about having a high growth lifestyle practice is I get to enjoy that. I get
Mhm.
to have that where I'm bettering myself all the time and I'm experiencing radical growth. And I think the growth is a result of taking care of myself.
That's great. So for people who have made it this far into the conversation are like, yes, I'm sold. Let's do it. What are your, okay, let's start tomorrow. What are your top takeaways for people of like actual, actionable, practical, like starting tomorrow? Here, look at these couple of things. Like where should they start?
Yeah. So I think number one, if you don't schedule it, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put intentional time on your calendar. And I would start by finding a place that's not your office, it's not your home, it's not a place with distraction. It could be a park, it could be a cabin in the mountains, wherever, a hotel. Go find a place where you're not going to be distracted, to be present and write down what it is you want. Identify it, call it out, write it down. I want a practice that generates $1 million or $2 million, whatever it is. I want to be able to take off, 12 weeks a year. I want to make sure that I make every hockey game, every baseball game, every football game, every gymnastics meet. I want to make and do the stuff. Write it down. Personal life, professional life. If you write it down, you can start stripping away, the layers of fat that maybe you don't really want that, and then really identifying the things that are most important to you that, these are non-negotiables in my life. I have to have this. Once you've done that, who are some of the most successful people that have done the hard things? They have created maybe a practice like you would like to have. They perhaps have done some difficult things in terms of maybe sacrificing in order to always be present with their kids' stuff, or they're amazing, husbands or wives. Like, oh my gosh. Step two is schedule time with those people. Ask,
Mm-hmm.
can I take you to coffee? Can I take you to lunch? Will you spend 2 hours with me? I have asked that question so many times in my life. Do you know I've never had a no? Like, ever. You have not because you ask not. Ask. People want to help. They really do. And oftentimes they aren't given the opportunity to help. So let people help you. People that have gone before you, who have done the thing that you want to do. Number three, find a coach. Find that person that, one, they've helped other people do what you want to do, and two, they're going to hold your feet to the fire. They're going to give you accountability. I just cannot overstate it enough just how valuable a coach in your life can be. And there's so many different types of coaches: practice management coaches, growth coaches, marketing coaches, speaking coaches. There's so many different, like, where do you need help harnessing your energy and making, getting to where you want to go and having that accountability. And then I think lastly, it's finding the right circle.
Mm-hmm.
That one, of everything we've talked about, might be the most difficult, because oftentimes we get comfortable with the circle that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to break out of some of the group texts that you're in. Or I see these people at the conferences, or I go to these conferences because these are my friends. I'm not saying get rid of your friends. I'm saying in a professional context, perhaps you need a little different circle of people that you're around that might push you to do some things that you didn't believe that you could.
Yeah, absolutely. No, those are all great. And I like to throw one more bonus one for me, a little old me. Figure out your physical health stuff first, too, in addition to that, because the
So good.
mind and the body are so connected. And if you're not exercising every day or have a plan for that, I feel like none of the rest of this stuff will click in for you. Because
Man,
that's been my experience. But
that's
yeah,
so good.
so I would love to thank you so much, Nick, for coming on the show. For people who are interested in connecting with you, learning more about what you've got going on, and just getting to know you a little bit, what are the best ways for people to connect with you?
Sure. LinkedIn's always a great way. I don't check One of my things is I only check email like twice a week.
Mhm.
To actually connect on LinkedIn, that's a great way to connect and stay up to date with what we've got going on.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Well, any final thoughts before we close out, Nick?
Oh, well, I just want to say that your last one's probably the most valuable of everything we've talked about. Health is wealth. Take care of your health.
Seriously, don't put it on the back burner. If you're not without health, nothing else is worth it. That's what Aristotle said,
Yeah.
and it's been true since since the BC era.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and for those listening. Thanks for the connection to Nick will be, I'll post the link to his LinkedIn profile wherever you're encountering this. And always love to hear your feedbacks, your thoughts, comments. You can also find me on LinkedIn if you have any feedback on this. This is a
And
conversation that I'm really passionate about. So,
Catherine, can I say one more thing? I
sure.
just want to say thank you because I have looked, and watched your content, and you are doing such an awesome job for our industry and putting out there, different awesome people that are guests on your show. And I think there's so much value to what you're doing. So I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate the content you're putting out there.
Oh, thanks, Nick. And if anybody has any feedback or advice, I'm all ears, because I was joking with Nick at the beginning. When you're running a professional services firm, like I do tax work, you guys do financial advising, it's the same business model. So I do this as much for myself as for the industry of just, I think we can all, the more that we try to find those efficiencies and find the truth, like the search of the truth, that's really where we're all going to benefit. So, but I really thank you for that, Nick. I appreciate it.